Nerds, Nitwits, and everybody else. So welcome back, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, side ducks, and everybody else. Welcome to episode 3 of Nerds and Nitwits. We are the Nitwits, where we explore the nerdy and embrace nitwits. We're the Nitwits.
That's what we do.
Hey, you can see everybody, you can hear everybody. Look at that. It's a whole new adventure today.
Well, except for this weird dude.
Okay.
Who can't show his face for government reasons.
Yeah, poor Noggin.
Sorry. They might deport me if they find out who I actually am. So I'm gonna stay here.
You know, I legitimately had a friend like that when I was in Bible school, who for reasons that he would not talk about couldn't have his actual name, couldn't have his picture anywhere, nothing. I was like, oh, okay, well that's interesting.
Oh my goodness.
Anyways. We are here tonight. I hope you enjoy yourselves. What are we starting with, boys? Are we going to start with our lovely new segment? And who wants to introduce that?
I'll introduce it.
Heck yeah!
Guess what, guys? Just like any good podcast or talk show thingamajigger, we got segments. That's right, we just upgraded. So get wrecked, Jimmy Kimmel. The Nitwits have a segment. And this segment is called Fandom Forecast. We're going to be doing it once at the start of every month, and the whole idea behind it is that we are going to be presenting the big new topics that are coming out, giving you a heads up on games. We're going to be doing movies, as well as checking out some of those more nerdy things. Sometimes if there's a bunch of things, we could do a whole episode on it, like the case of today with some of the things that we're presenting. But that's what we're doing here. If you guys like it, let us know. If you're like, wow, it's cheesy, too bad we're doing it. So get wrecked. Otherwise, yeah. What's on the forecast? I believe we're starting off with Anthony.
Hey-o.
Oh yeah. So big thing that's coming out this February, I think, is it's not a huge deal in the gaming industry, but to a lot of people in the strategy style gaming is Civilization 7 is coming out here shortly. It has been in development for about 10 years now, and it is piggybacking off of the previous Civilization games. Then there's a lot of cool things that they are bringing out with Civ 7. They are going away from the standard Civs with leaders, and you are able to choose a leader and then choose a civ that you can play, and you choose that. So you can pick whichever leader you like best. They have different abilities and buffs, and then they can go with each other leader or each other civ, and you can maximize buffs that way. Another big thing that they have added that I think is really cool is they have eras. So you have 3 different eras. There's the Antiquity era, the Exploration era, and the Modern era. And in those different eras, you actually change what civilizations you choose. So you stay as your leader, but you upgrade in what civs you start at. So you could start as the Romans and then come to the Exploration age. I think one of the options that you can have is the Greeks. And then you can move on from there, and they have different buffs based on which ways you go, which is really cool.
That's really interesting, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is really cool. And then the last thing that I really liked is that they have swapped from settlers making straight up cities, and that when you have your initial, I think the unit is called a founder. So your founder makes your capital city, and then from there you have your settlers that you build in your normal states, and they start towns, and towns supply the city with resources. So you can have a certain amount of towns. It's actually less complicated than Civ 6, surprisingly enough. Once you figure it out. But you can have only a certain amount of towns for the culture that you have, or influence that you have, and you can slowly upgrade, and then you can upgrade those towns into cities. So So it's a really cool and interesting way. Like, they really revamped it in a lot of ways. The combat's easier. There's a whole thing that I could go on about combat. So that will be for another time. The game looks absolutely gorgeous. The only thing that most people have an issue with is the UI.
Yes. I did.
It's a little bit bland and it's a little bit buggy, but besides that, the game looks beautiful and it's gonna be great once they iron out those bugs for sure. But it will be coming out this month for sure.
Nice,
Dude, what I'm excited for is being able to get economic victories so you can win with purchasing money powers. AKA, nothing wrong with a good old Donald Trump.
Oh my gosh.
As long as I got my little pointer finger here, just like him too. As long as Gandhi is able to nuke people out of sheer anger from flipping over back from Civ 3, that's all that matters to me.
I mean, fair enough. We'll figure that out. I swear, if you can't, like, I'll be a little bit upset.
I hope he comes back because he's not in the original release.
Oh,
so you cannot play Gun. He's not one of the original. There's a lot of different leaders. Like we've got Ben Franklin,
yes,
as a leader, and we've got a bunch of them. But a lot of your old school guys are not in the original release. So we'll see who they add with DLCs because they love their DLCs.
That's true. It's true.
So, yeah,
epic. Well, thanks, Anthony. I think we're gonna wind it over to Joel. Joel's got some interesting stuff coming up. Joel, what do you got for us?
My personal favorite, one of my favorite series ever. Open beta, second open beta is on tonight, and then the official release for Monster Hunter Wilds is on February 28th. One of my favorite series. I have played every North American release of that game, including the original PS2 version, which I had to buy from eBay to get a hold of, actually. But yeah, that
was that like when dinosaurs roamed the earth that you bought that?
Just because I'm older than you doesn't mean nothing. Anyways, yeah, that comes out on the 28th. Just the other day, I was streaming some World, getting set up for it. Yeah, I know I'm old. But anyways, yeah, I can't wait for it. It's going to be cool. There's a lot of new monsters. Some of Gizzy's favorite creatures, like spiders, are going to be involved, and he refuses to play with me, but I'm going to force it anyways. You can now have they did it in Monster Hunter Rise, where you could have like a rideable mount, and you can just roam the map. Playing the beta, Wilds is more open world than Monster Hunter Worlds is. It is more seamless when you venture around the map. Your base is in the map. Like, your main base is part of the map. It's not a whole separate entity that you come in and out of and you have to load and whatever else. So that's cool. For the first time ever, you can bring multiple weapons with you, which is everybody's favorite new thing, because now it means you can take something slow like the Greatsword and then take something that's a little bit faster, like the Dual Blades or Sword and Shield, or do like a melee weapon and a ranged weapon, so you can have a bow gun or a bow or whatever else and hunt from the distance, trying to get their attention, and then swap to your heavy hitting hammer, and then you knock them right on their butts. But when that releases on the 28th, that is all I'm going to be streaming for the next foreseeable future. So if you don't like it, then probably don't watch, but you should. But anyways, it's going to be a good time. There's a bunch of new trailers just came out 2 days ago. If you pick it up and you see me streaming and you want to join me on a few hunts, absolutely message me. We'll set it up. But that is what's coming on the 28th, and I will never shut up about it. I will continuously talk about it. There's old monsters returning, new monsters coming in, but that is my thing, and that is all I'm going to be talking about for the next foreseeable future.
Nice.
Pretty awesome. Well, Cameron, what do you have for the forecast coming up?
So I was tasked with doing some rapid fire of a few things coming out this month. So to start with, we got the trailer 2 days ago for the new Fantastic Four movie called Fantastic Four: First Steps. The trailer shows off members of the Fantastic Four in what looks to be the 60s during the space race. It also shows off their antagonist, classic Galactus, a huge space god who wants to eat Earth. Probably. That's usually the story when Galactus is involved. That movie will release on July 25th this year. Alongside that, on the same day, we got the release of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, a story-driven, open-world action RPG that takes place in the 15th century, which seems cooler than the 21st century in some ways. I'm not going to tell you more because it's literally already out, and you can just go watch a million YouTube videos on it right now. So go do that if it sounds cool to you. On February 14th this month, we will be getting Captain America Brave New World, where we get to see Sam Wilson, formerly the Falcon, who is now taking on the mantle of Captain America in his first movie as Captain America after the TV show. And he tries to stop an international incident. Tune in next week to hear about our nerdy opinions on how MCU movies could be better. Or worse, but mostly better. On February 18th, Avowed comes out. Avowed is a new game by Obsidian, the developers of Fallout New Vegas, Grounded, The Outer Worlds, and honestly, like, every other game they've made that's amazing, which is all of them. In that game, you explore the Living Lands, a mysterious island filled with adventure and danger. You are sent to investigate rumors of a spreading plague with a secret that threatens to destroy everything. You know, classic video game premise. Can you save the island before the forces threatening to tear it apart destroy it? And then, technically, my last thing is the new D&D Monster Manual, which in theory releases on February 28th. It's been 11 years since the last Monster Manual was published, so this is pretty exciting. The new Monster Manual for 2025 updates many monsters to the new 2024 rules, adds many more monsters as well to the manual, and addresses many issues players and creators had with the old manual. In theory, this book doesn't come out till the 28th, but it's already popping up in smaller game stores. I'd tell you more, but instead you'll just have to watch Nerds and Nitwits in 2 weeks to see what we think.
Yo, Joel, do you want to show off that alternate art cover that you picked up at our favorite local game store, Three
Heck
Goblins?
yeah.
They don't
Look at
sponsor
this.
us, but we're saying it anyway.
I didn't pick it up at Three Goblins. I picked it up at Game Quest.
Oh.
Still
Why'd you
a
do that?
favorite.
Both
Still a
great.
favorite.
Hey, they're both
I
awesome.
told you I picked up a game. But look at this. Got a nice little Minds player. All alternate covers have this lovely 50th anniversary stamp on the back. But yeah,
That's really cool.
I love it. We have lots of shiny new things, but we're not going to show you that. No. You'll have to wait and see. Yeah,
That's right. If you're sitting there going, did I hear that right? Yeah, Cameron, you spoiled. You give some spoilers for some of our future episodes. Do you want to just say those again for folks who are maybe not hearing every single word you said because you were so professional?
Yeah, absolutely. So, next week, tune in Thursday at maybe 8 p.m., not 7. Keep an eye out on the social media to find out. We'll be talking about our opinions on how the MCU movies could be made better. In 2 weeks, probably at 7 for sure, maybe later, probably 7. Again, just keep an eye on the social media. We'll be talking about the new D&D Monster Manual and, just the things that we like about it, the things we find cool in it, what it improves, maybe what it doesn't improve. We haven't really read it yet, so we're going to find out.
Awesome. Thanks, Cam. We're going to tie up this segment with one of the things that I'm really excited about. I am an avid Magic the Gathering player, as all of us are. And coming out on February 14th is the next Magic the Gathering release. The best part with this is that this is actually one of Magic the Gathering's original IPs. If you guys are unfamiliar, Wizards of the Coast, partnered with Hasbro, presented the fact that they're going to be doing 50% of all releases for the coming years are going to be foreign IPs, and 50% are going to be original IPs. So we're looking at Dragonstorm's coming up. We got some. There's going to be a Spider-Man release later in the year.
Final Fantasy.
There's going to be Final Fantasy. That one's dropping
That's
in
the one I
December.
want.
That one is probably.
Baby.
That is up there with the Dragon Storm for the two most anticipated. And to be honest with this release, this one is called Aether Drift. Aether Drift is based on this wonderful idea that 4 of the Magic the Gathering worlds from previous releases are tied together through this mysterious contraption that allows them to race for time, space, and items, aka Mario Kart. That's right. This is ripping off Mario Kart. If you're like, what the heck's up with this? This is probably one of the ones that is least anticipated. People are like, did we really need race cars in Magic the Gathering? The more I researched this and the more I actually got excited about it. So I wanted to go over just 4 things coming up. So Joel, if you want to hit that first one, we got some graphics for you guys. This first one here that is coming up is the new mechanic that's getting dropped. This is the keyword start your engines. For those of you unfamiliar with Magic the Gathering, cards have keywords. As you can see on this one, you got flying and haste as well as start your engines. The start your engines mechanic will be having building around the idea and concept of speed. So as you can see, if you have no speed counters, it starts at 1. A counter is just a number that goes on a card, and you can manipulate it with different abilities. You get to increase once on each of your turns when an opponent loses life, and then max speed is 4. The max speed, the mechanic with this is that once you hit max speed on a card, you get to use its max speed ability. In this case, for Oil Gorger, you gain lifelink, aka when you deal damage, you gain life for the amount of damage, which is pretty sweet. My brother, who's an avid Magic the Gathering guy, he knows far more than I do. He's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I don't know if I'm interested. Some of these cards look really Mad Maxy, which I personally think is super awesome. They also have some Formula 1 nods. There's a rumored Schumacher card. I don't know how that plays into it, but that's pretty darn cool.
That card.
The other thing you're going to see with the max speed is it's actually going to force players to have to make quick decisions in a sense of, can I let this sit around long enough? Because it's obviously not super threatening to begin with, but is there going to be something worse on the table? Send us to that next slide there, Joel.
All right.
Presenting here, these are 3 of the top money cards that I see coming out. The first big one, Radiant Lotus. For any of you guys who know the information on the Black Lotus, that card is insane. It's one of the most expensive cards in Magic the Gathering. This Radiant Lotus seeks to do the same thing, where if you sacrifice 1 or more artifacts, you get to choose a color, and target player adds 3 mana of that color. So essentially, you can sack artifacts to get 3 mana of any color. So any card becomes a Black Lotus. Ridiculous. Your next one, Monument to Endurance. This is based off of the reprinting of Amon-Ket, which is a wonderful series that came out back in 2016 and 17. Monument of Endurance is not necessarily a big money card, but it's a style of artifacts that are coming out, in the sense that there's going to be multiple options, so you're going to be able to ding people for life, draw cards, and create treasures. This card is going to be a big one to look out for because of its ability to wheel into other strategies, aka make loops. It doesn't have to go infinite to be dangerous.
That's true.
And then the Aether Spark. The Aether Spark, this is a groundbreaking card in the world of Magic the Gathering because it is the very first non-creature planeswalker. This is an artifact planeswalker, and this is actually the device in the lore that is allowing all these worlds to intersect with one another for this great race, which is insane. So the fact that this is a planeswalker, the fact that it's a mythic rare, the fact that it has some game-breaking abilities is going to pump it up. So these are the 3 money cards that you're going to be looking for. There's a couple others that you're going to see because certain cards are just going to command a higher price range. But that's what we're looking at. Joel, you want to send us to that next one there?
Sure can.
Epic.
I love how much you've already done research on this, Michael. This is looking awesome.
Dude. Yeah, I started getting really excited. These are 3, in my opinion, 3 of the best commanders. If you really want to watch other videos, there's a ton out there on what are going to be good commanders. These commanders, 1, Loot. Loot the Pathfinder. Loot the Pathfinder is the best commander in the set from just looking at it, not having watched it. This is going to be the one that is going to drive people insane. The fact that it is double strike, vigilance, and haste. If you really want to sit there and go, I want to Voltron this little piece of crap, you could do that. If you want to sit there and be like, I could use these exhaust abilities in 3 colors to absolutely manipulate my mana pool, card draw, and also just run the table, I guess I can do that. And the fact that it's in green, blue, red gives you burn spells, counter spells, and big beasts. This thing's going to drive attention. The Captain Howler is just going to be great for its ward factor, and also Shark Pirates. Who didn't want Shark Pirates? I didn't know I wanted Shark Pirates until I saw this card.
Ooh,
so that is just going to be a big one, as well as the new Amonkhet god, Ketramos. Ketramos is actually in the theory, in the mythos of magic. It comes through, and it has the ability. So they had 2 gods die from Amonkhet. They died and sacrificed themselves in a purpose to preserve the world. So this is actually a combination of the white-black coming together. So this is going to be Orzar, which is going to drive the classic aristocrat strategy of killing your own stuff. So these are the 3 commanders that I think are going to be, aka the most popular or the best. There's a couple other commanders you're going to see, because there's a total of 37. They dropped 37 potential commanders in this set, which is really cool. But we're going to flip over to this next slide here.
Rolling. Frogs.
Heck yeah. These are I'm breaking down some of the core new strategies, as well as some of the new main tribes that you're getting. You see that zombie wizard, Scarabs first. That is also going to be a top commander for sure, easily in the top 5. Could be interchangeable. What you're about to see in Magic the Gathering is a lot of frogs, a lot of goblins, and a lot of zombies. Oh my. Baby. That's right. We're transitioning back to frogs and zombies. Frogs is not a tribe that has really been supported, so that's exciting. You're also going to see a lot of discard abilities. If you're sitting there going, I don't see enough decks that profit off of discarding their own crap, this is what you're going to see. We're going to see a lot of discard, and we're going to see a lot of exile your opponent's creatures to play them. So essentially, Tier Grid, who blew up everybody with its saltiness, we're going to see a lot of that sort of stuff, as well as some of the other things coming out of it. So that's something I'm not looking forward to, but hey, we're going to see that. Goblins, specifically Gruul, so that's going to be your green-red goblins. This is not a color combination that is often supported in goblins, but I'm excited to bring that out. Being a Gruul goblin player in one of my commander decks, that's going to be great. And then this middle card, I just want to highlight this because I realized how insane this is. Owl Squad Heavy. With this goblin, this is also going to be a high-priced card. And the reason I want to point it out is in Magic the Gathering, if you're playing in Modern or Standard or Legacy, you can have up to 4 copies of one card. In Commander, you can only have 1. No. This is a non-legendary, which means you could have multiple of these guys on the field at the same time. So you could, 1, have Start Your Engines, where your max speed gives you 1 red mana for each goblin you control. Goblins can pump out anything. So imagine having 50 mana. If you have 50 goblins, you have 50 mana. By the way, you can have 4 of these on the field, so that's 200 mana to just cash for whatever. Instant death. Oh, by the way, every other goblin has haste? That's right. I don't even need to be a commander. I am going to be the best other 99 goblin card right up there with if you don't have Kranko as your commander. And then, oh, by the way, every time combat begins, you create 1 red goblin creature token, and it can attack if able. This thing feeds itself. People who play goblins will have this card, and we will all hate it. But it's going to be really exciting. So if no, it's not going to be me. I'm really excited for the frogs. I'm probably going to be looking at. Actually, there's a really cool ooze commander. I'm excited to check out that ooze style and some shapeshifters. But primarily, you're going to see a lot of zombies. So if you're sitting there and you're lonely on Valentine's Day, go gamble with Magic the Gathering.
Because the pre-release,
you're real excited for this.
Yeah, pre-release is tomorrow, right?
Yeah, the pre-release comes out tomorrow, and then Valentine's Day is going to be the big drop. I'm really excited. I'm actually probably going to be looking at building some decks around that. If you have Magic the Gathering questions, feel free to throw them in chat, and we'll love to chat about it more. But
So-
that's gonna wrap up our future fandom forecast. So thank you for joining us in that segment.
So what you're saying is that Valentine's Day, I'm going to be spending it playing Magic and going to watch Captain America
Dude, that sounds like a pretty solid
There, the
Valentine's
worst
Day.
thing
by
you can
myself. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right. Let's switch over to our regularly scheduled forecast, which is our usual episode of Nerds and Nitwits. Tonight we are talking about past future technology and what TV shows and movies we watched growing up, or our parents watched growing up, got right, what they got wrong, what we still want to see, so on and so forth. I personally picked the domestic robots, like Rosie from the Jetsons, you know, the little maid that bums around, cleans up after the family, feeds the dog, takes all that stuff. That is not here yet, but we're working on it. We have very smaller scale things.
We got Roombas.
Well, that's what I mean. We have smaller scale things. We got Roombas that roll around, though if you do it improperly, next thing you know, they're spreading dog poop all over the floor. But, you know, we're getting there. We got things like the Alexa devices that can help you with your shopping, can help you with the weather, can help you with all that kind of stuff. Started off as, like, you know, these weird little pods that just were voices. Now they got screens, now you got all that kind of stuff. There's also, like, I can't remember what it's called now. I should have wrote it down. There's these little robots that sit just in your house, on your desk, and they're like therapy robots. They're just supposed to sit there and talk to you.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
What are they called?
Mean a dog?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the dogs, yeah, basically. but like that's all they do is they sit there, they interact with you, they have like somewhat emotional responses. Well, there's Vector. Like I had a Vector once. There's like the emo one. It's called emo. It's not an emo robot. It's called emo. Don't start with me.
Yeah.
But there's like newer ones that have like faces now that have like eyes that animate. They got mouths and all this stuff that they like give you somewhat emotional responses to the things you're telling them. I'm like, that's kind of freaky, just a little bit. But
So Joel, if I could pose a question for you.
pose a question.
What inspired you to pick this topic? Like, which fictional robot sits in your
Jetsons.
brain and you're like, man, I want that so bad?
Jetsons. Yes, I know, I'm showing my age again. Shut up. The old school, like, Hanna-Barbera cartoons that I only ever got to watch when I was at my grandparents' place, because my grandfather was one of those guys that just loved paying for cable and satellite and whatever else. So he had, like, every channel. So I had, like, old, like, Teletoon Retro and all that. So, like, I grew up, like, watching the Jetsons and being like, she's so sassy, especially. She's so sarcastic and, like, gives them so much attitude, but then she still just cleans all the dishes. She automatically does all this stuff. I'm like, that would be so nice to have. And then I sat there and thought about it. It's like, I don't want to be laying in bed one night and just have it standing at the end of my bed going, hey, are you awake yet? It's like, no, I don't. Either not quite there, but I would argue C-3PO is along the same lines as a translator. And
Yeah,
all
that
that
was
stuff.
mine.
Yeah. Like, he is like a great talking companion. You could have endless conversations with him, but like, I still don't know. Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if we'll ever, like, it'll be a while before we get to the point where we have like that level of like, what is it, Boston Dynamics or whatever that create the robots in SpaceX and all of them that have like the walking talking ones. But it's like, it'll be a while before we have that in our homes. But even having stuff like the Echo Dots and like the little vector robots that roam around your house and all that, it's like, we're getting there, and it shows. As long as we don't hit like Wall-E levels, we're okay.
You know what I don't want, though? One of them HAL 9000 robots that locks you in space and tries to murder you.
Hal, open the Bombay doors.
But if you had to sit there and look at it, I guess this is a question for everybody. What's your favorite fiction? Like, what's your favorite robot?
You're gonna make
Like-
me choose?
Like, if we had to sit here and quickly do like a list of what are the 4 best robots.
I
think-
Like, how do we as a
Immediately-
team put this together?
What pops into my mind is Tars from Interstellar. But I also just think Tars was such a cool design because it's like the same idea, but somehow he's a rectangle, but he can do all the things.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. I don't know.
I'm an R2D2 guy.
Oh, yeah.
I think R2D2 for iconic wise is up there. Or a one that I had to admit to my wife the other day. I'd never actually seen the movie, only played the video game. Wall-E.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You
Who
played
also
the
makes a
video game
reference
and
to
not watched
Hal.
the movie?
Yeah, straight up.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's just wild. It's one of those things. You know how we all have things in our childhood that like we missed, it like dodged us, and you don't know what happened.
I guess,
That's one
yeah.
of mine. I never
Oh, yeah.
saw it, but I played the video game.
Oh,
Yeah, I've also never seen Wall-E, but for the longest time I thought it was the robot from Short Circuit. I
oh.
thought that was Wall-E for the longest time.
Johnny Five,
Turns out
isn't
it's
it?
not. Yeah, that is a great movie. But
Oh
I
yeah.
think the robot that came to mind, because like initially I thought Transformers, but I'm like they're robots, but they're
They're
sentient from
bio
space. They're-
robots, yeah.
yeah, it's like okay, we're not gonna go that way. My thought was Atom from Real Steel.
Oh, yeah,
Ooh,
okay.
You know, that's a dope answer, bro.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
That's a good choice.
That movie, I watched it a couple weeks ago again, and oh my goodness, love that movie.
BT from Titanfall might be top 10. You're not wrong there. BT
Yeah,
for sure.
100%.
Yeah,
I forgot about
I
BT.
can see that.
So this may not be like one of my favorites. This one really, literally just came to my mind because I blame my father for this one. It's this little thing called Tweaky. I don't know if you know who Tweaky is. Tweaky is from an old TV show called Buck Rogers. And if
I know Rogers.
you know
yep.
Buck Rogers. So
Yeah.
in the 25th century is what it was fully called. If you ever seen like the Looney Tunes cartoons, that's what Duck Dodgers is based off of. Like the Daffy Duck Dodgers. It's based off of Buck Rogers.
Okay.
And I remember watching like endless episodes of that and the original Star Trek because my dad would just get them from the library. And I don't know why that popped into my head all of a sudden. May not be my favorite, but it's definitely one of those things that's like, oh yeah, it was like a walking, talking, like friend, assistant, whatever. I'm like, that's dope. Like, that's what we need.
You know how I know Buck Rogers? I've never seen a single minute or second of it, but we'd be driving places, and my dad, it was one of his favorite shows as a kid, and he would retell us the episodes as stories. And we didn't
love
my
that.
brother and I didn't find out until later there was like a real thing.
I
And
love
we're like,
that.
Dad, is this legit? He goes, oh yeah, I just like memorized all of the episodes, and that was wild to me. Like we'd be sitting there driving, and he'd just start talking about this super spaceman. It was awesome.
I love that.
Joel, are you as old as Michael's dad?
I sure
I hope not. That's like, I think I've got at most like 6 years on you. Maybe not even that. 5
Are
years.
you almost
Yeah, that
60,
sounds
Joel?
right.
No. I'm halfway there.
What?
Lemon on a pear. Anyways, we got robots out of the way.
Yeah.
Noggin,
funny.
you read an interesting book this week.
Yes, I did. So the technology that I picked up, something that is, we are starting to scratch the surface, is virtual reality. So it has kind of taken the world by storm on a lot of fronts in the gaming community. Just the idea that you can put on this headset and you can put up these little cameras around your house and it can track your movements and you basically enter that reality. And it is really, really cool. However, something that I did not know is that this was kind of theorized as an idea back in 1935.
Oh my
A
goodness.
short story called Pygmalion's Spectacles is the first iteration of an alternate reality that you can enter. So I read the book today. It's a 30-page book, so it's super short, and it's an interesting read. It's a very interesting read. But it starts out like this is in the 1930s, so this is in the height of the Great Depression, and it starts out with this dude, Dan Burke. He is, well, one of the opening lines is struggling for clarity of thought through the fumes of liquor. So he is not having a good time. He is drunk. And he meets up with this guy, and he calls himself a professor, and he's got these spectacles that he was trying to sell to some folks, and it was not going well for him, and they said that he was a fool. Basically, what they did is that he could have sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch all in this augmented reality.
Wow.
So this dude named Dan, who is inebriated, goes up to the hotel room, sits in the hotel armchair, and he's like, "Sure, we'll do this." And the Professor Ludwig puts on this mask type thing, and he's got this some sort of liquid. It doesn't describe what the liquid is, but he adds this liquid to the spectacles, and Dan enters this alternate reality. And it starts out in a very paradise type way. It's like a beautiful area. There's forest. It's described incredible, unearthly, beautiful. Like, it's quite interesting.
That's a crazy like that they thought about that in the 30s.
Yeah, this is insane. So the bulk of the book is, which is not much, but he goes into this augmented reality and he looks and he can feel the grass in his toes. Like he's walking barefoot. He looks down and he sees that he's just wearing this silver garment. And he looks ahead of him and there's this woman who's also wearing this silver garment. And she lives in this world of just goodness and happiness. Like there is nothing weird happening here besides the fact of it's basically perfect. And they just talk about these laws of like she's awaiting for her betrothed so that she can have a kid who will then proceed to live out this alternate reality. And there's this one other dude who's like aged, but you don't age normally. You only age if you want to. There is no death.
Interesting.
It's very strange, and Dan gets really entranced into this area because he's obviously been having a tough time. He gets stuck in this reality, and he starts to fall in love with this girl as she shows him this world that she lives in. And it goes on, and they're talking about this, and then he says that he loves her, and she says it back, and then she gives him a name. He never said his name was Dan. She gives him a name for the few seconds, and then all of a sudden they separate. They're not holding on to each other, and she forgets his name. She's smiling like she's happy as can be, but she forgets his name and continues to call him a phantom because they're just called phantoms. He eventually loses out of the reality. He pops out. He realizes that he fell out of the chair and he was in there for 5 hours. Finally finds the guy because when he fell, he breaks the system, and he goes and finds the professor, and he talks to him, and he's like, he's distressed because like he wants to be in this reality, like he loves it. He talks to the professor, and the professor says, yeah, the trees were club mosses enlarged by a lens. The fruits were rubber. The house is a summer building on our campus, North University. And the voice was his, so he basically built this whole thing around. And it was just an interesting thing. And then he finds out that the girl is the professor's niece, which is wild. So it was just a very, very interesting read. And the fact that this came out in 1935 is absolutely crazy. So that was quite a wild read. Which we haven't gotten to that point. We have sight, we have sound, but there are some other adaptations. So in 1982, the film Tron came out. I have not seen that movie. I have seen Tron Legacy.
What?
That came out in more recent years. Get off my back.
Yeah, okay.
I know.
That's fair. It's an old movie. Like I can forgive that. Tron Legacy is good.
Tron Legacy is good, and like you enter this alternate reality through the arcade and whatnot, and that's really cool. There's also this other book done by Neil Stevenson in 1992 called Snow Crash, which is a little bit closer to what we know as VR today. It's this little processing unit, and it's based on the Western Seaboard. California is not part of the U.S. at the time, but it's like this weird futuristic cyberpunk type world, and the mafia's involved, and they try to boot up this thing, and there's hackers. I haven't gotten to read the book, but it's more closer to like sight and sound, and you can enter this area. So
That's really cool.
It's really interesting, and I look at it and I'm like, holy smokes, like we are still within the 100 years of that original book. But the fact that they thought of this back in the 30s, when the world was like distraught, it's like, this makes sense. It's like the Great Depression. Of course this makes sense why alternate reality sounds so good. But it just got me to the point of like, holy smokes, this was predicted so long ago, and now we are just starting to get into it. So I thought that was really interesting.
I was gonna be like, I wonder if he was where the writer was, because you get sort of all those sorts of alternate reality things, especially in the Great Depression back in the prairies in Canada and America. Like that's where you get the Wizard of Oz and some of those things, where it becomes that escapist because they just did not have access to those things.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
I'm still waiting for Ready Player One. So.
Oh,
hey, man,
yes.
This that's instantly what I thought of as a great option. Or shoot, I can't remember what it was called now. Give me like 2 seconds. Oh, I did have it right. They Live. It's not technically. It's more like augmented reality. It stars Rowdy Piper, good old WWE legend.
Yo,
he puts on these goggles, and they allow him to see the aliens that are hiding in people's skin, and he has to save the world from aliens that are trying to manipulate everything. It's so good. It's got one of my favorite all-time lines. It's about chewing bubblegum and being all out of bubblegum.
Yeah. So, last thing, like Ready Player One, also like great book, great movie, great adaptation of VR of like how we know it as today.
Oh yeah.
But the writer of this book, Stanley G. Weinbaum, he was born in 1902 in Kentucky, and he wrote the book, and it was released in 1935. He passed away in 1935 at the age of 33.
Dang. That's wild.
So that's interesting. But yeah, he is from the States. So, and he is known as an American science fiction writer, which is getting closer to not science fiction. It's now becoming science reality.
Yeah. That's wild. It's incredible, actually, if you look at it. Like, we're not even 100 years removed from that, and we're pulling that up, which is pretty insane.
Why did the chat suddenly become a conversation about dementia? We're talking about like VR stuff and all
I
this
just don't
stuff.
understand.
Gizzy
Something was going on, and I'm trying not to.
Gizzy and Dwarf were over here going on about dementia. But anyways, who's next?
With that, thanks, Anthony. What bit of technology tickled your fancy there, Cameron?
So I, again, today did things a little differently. I picked Star Trek. Because if you've seen
That's
a
not
single
a
episode
technology.
of Star Trek, you'll know that they predicted basically all technology back in like the 60s when they started it. So, yeah, I've just got a quicker list of many things in Star Trek that was predicted way back like 80 years ago, 60 years ago. Math is a little hard. So, the first one, obviously, the communicators in Star Trek. They have them in the original series, and they have them in a bunch of the other series until they do away with them and their little badge lets them talk. And obviously those are just like, literally they look like flip phones. Like, they had this idea in like the 60s, and it literally like flips out, lets you talk. Pretty cool. Very much predicted flip phones, which then became smartphones, which segues into my next thing, tablets and touchscreens. Yeah, if you watch Star Trek, you will see that they touch a lot of screens that just do things like smartphones do. Yeah, they had in the Next Generation Star Trek, they had touchscreen tablets that looked almost like iPads or Android tablets. Even some of the UI designs, which wasn't even a thing then, they didn't have touchscreens, but in Star Trek, looks like what our tablets and touchscreens look like now, and how the buttons work, and they display easily on the bottom, and you have all your options, and yeah, they like full on predicted that. Voice assistants and AI, obviously. The Enterprise had a computer it was a fully voice controlled AI. Again, like way predicted Siri and Alexa and ChatGPT. Obviously, I think that the computer in Star Trek was maybe a little more capable, like it could control a whole starship, and we're not quite there, but I'd say it's a prediction. We're moving that direction. Replicators, obviously. Now, if you don't know, there are companies that have like 3D printed meat. So it's not quite as fast as Star Trek yet, but it seems like we're moving that direction. So I'd call that a pretty good prediction, as well as just 3D printing in general.
Wait,
again,
they're actually 3D printing food?
Yeah, it's wild. Like 3D printed. There's like doctors and scientists who are 3D printing like ears for people. So like, say someone is a burn victim and they lose their ear, they're like testing 3D printing a new like flesh meat ear for someone. It's insane. And I think we're years and yeah, flesh meat ear. And I think we're years from it being as quick as it is in Star Trek, but nonetheless, a solid prediction. I think it's really, really cool stuff. Yeah, NASA today even uses 3D printers to use, they create tools and parts on like the International Space Station. So they have a 3D printer, and if they don't have a tool they need on the space station for something, they can 3D print the tool. So like NASA will send them the data, the STL file, and they can print what they need, which is awesome.
That's really cool.
Other than that, yeah, Anthony's already touched on it, but they had obviously the holodecks in Star Trek. If you haven't seen Star Trek, it's basically a room where instead of, VR we have today where you put a headset on, it's a room that simulates anything you want. So there's tons of episodes where they do different things where like Captain Picard is, in like a 1940s mystery novel, basically, and that kind of thing. So again, a step further maybe than what our current VR does, but I think we're on the way there, and it's pretty cool.
For the younger generation, it's like the Danger Room in X-Men.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Dang. Yeah. Cam, what's your favorite bit of technology that was predicted by Star Trek?
My favorite bit of technology. Oh, I, I, I would probably say this is one I haven't actually touched on it yet, but I feel like this is the one that we all use the most. That was predicted in Star Trek. Automatic doors. And I know, but when Star Trek came out and the ships, they walk up to the door, opens automatically. In reality, in the show, they were just literally people, pulling open these sliding panels to the door. But in reality, we've almost all probably used one today or yesterday, even. If you've gone to the grocery store, if you've gone to the mall, like basically if you go to any big store anywhere, you've probably used an automatic door. So it's not as cool as a lot of the other stuff, but I think that, they predicted something that literally everyone uses constantly.
That's wild. And I know it was in the chat earlier, and I know you have an opinion about this. Somebody called out hoverboards from Back to the Future. Cameron, what's your disgruntlement with hoverboards?
Back to the Future said we'd have them by now, okay? And the reason I'm not talking about Back to the Future right now is because Back to the Future was wrong. So Back to the Future can go sit in the corner alone and think about what it's done.
There you go. For those of you who don't know, though, Back to the Future has one of the craziest almost predictions in the fact that it said that the Chicago Cubs, a MLB baseball team, was going to end their 100-plus year drought of not winning the World Series in 2015. They won it in 2016. It's absolutely wild. They were 1 year off.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Just like absolutely bizarre. But yeah, if you pretty much what I discovered, even like looking through my stuff, is if you're like, I wonder who predicted this kind of technology, it's probably Star Trek.
Pretty much, yeah. And then I have one more thing kind of on my list of things Star Trek predicted, and that is neural interfaces or brain-computer interfaces, if you will. And this one I'm iffier on, but there are companies like Elon Musk's Neuralink that are creating that technology where, they're creating chips that allow people who like physically, because maybe damage to their jaw or because of the way they're born, can't talk, and they have a chip in their mind that actually helps them speak through a computer just by thinking it. And so that's another technology that it shows up in Star Trek. And it mainly shows up with the Borg, which, if you don't know, they're like a race of people who are taken over by like electronics that are the Borg, and they become this hive, and it's really creepy. But it's neural interfaces, all that kind of stuff, and we're starting to see that technology today. It's been tested on animals a lot and had really good success, and I think people are going to start doing crazy things on their own when they get in trouble for trying to do it legally, and eventually I think we're going to have it. So,
but the one thing we can say is the world is thankful that you can't hear all of the thoughts we're thinking all at once through this technology, and that we simply just started a podcast. So you're welcome, world.
Absolutely, yeah.
The other thing I got out of that, Cameron, is that turns out, let me just pull up my fact checker here. Yeah. Look at that. Michael Jackson died 16 years early from getting his own 3D printed nose. That's what I got out of this.
You would be correct, I believe.
That's too bad. Poor man. Poor man. Could have had his own nose.
So that's in our clip
to answer
section.
your question from earlier, Gizzy, I don't know where the flesh comes from. I'm sorry. But I didn't do that much research into it.
I did see the
If somebody
chocolate
wants to
3D
look
printer.
up where the flesh comes from, please put it in chat. Where does the flesh come from? Or as the young kids would say it, where be that flesh?
Don't
Or
say
where
that
that
again.
flesh
Don't
be?
don't say that again. Don't that no. That was all kinds of wrong. That was
Where be that flesh,
was-
Doug? Where be that flesh?
Please no one look that up. Oh, we will.
How
We'll
to
come
get
back to you with
flagged
an
by
answer.
the
I'm gonna tell you about
CIA.
it tomorrow.
Well, with mine, you okay there, Cameron?
I didn't think about it. It's okay.
It's better than touching screens, you know? All them screens. Mine that I had, very short. I didn't have a whole lot. I wasn't sure what I was going to be looking up. But here's the argument that I'm ready to make. Yeah, there's some cool things, like in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, they had instant translation devices where they could instantly translate what people were saying into other languages, which we have in a space. Also in Imperium Earth and Demolition Man, they had targeted ads. That's right. Way back in the 80s and the 60s, they predicted that we would have programs that could make and like put ads out in a way that we could consistently see them. So that's wild. That's right. They had that all figured out before. But here's the biggest piece of technology that I would like to argue was predicted. Ladies and gentlemen, Star Wars A New Hope predicted Google Maps.
And with that, welcome to the end of
Specifically-
today's. No, I'm just kidding.
Specifically, Star Wars A New Hope predicted the direction live feed part of it. And this is extremely evident. Yeah, how? You're wondering how? How did it do that? Here's the deal. How does the Death Star get anywhere? They have to type in these coordinates, and then it starts trucking. And when they want to blow up Alderaan, it gets the classic 10 minutes until destination reached. And then they keep going. And then it's like 5 minutes till destination reach. And then they keep trucking. And then bang! Destruction! Bam! That's right. They also predicted space lasers. What happened in Hawaii? I don't know, but it could have been space lasers. That's the conspiracy theory I read about last week. Check it out for your own. But with that, and then it happens again later. They're sitting there getting to Yavin 4, and what happens? Death Star in range in 5 minutes. And then 3 minutes. They were so advanced, they didn't even have to tell you to turn right. They were just trucking, just going. All those little spaceships pew, pew, pew. And they're like, you know what we need to do? Not worry about this problem. And it was pretty sweet. Insane. So that was pretty wild. Yeah, you could say we predicted space lasers and being able to use hovercrafts and all those things. No. I'm saying Star Wars predicted Google Maps, and it comes up again. It comes up again in Episode 2. How does Obi-Wan get to Kamino? He types in the destination, and it just flies it for him.
Yeah, I can't even argue that one.
Star Wars, the Empire is Google. That's you heard it here first, folks. The Empire is Google.
Well, then.
It has all the information, even information you wouldn't hear from a Jedi's perspective. Prove me wrong. They also have that huge database in the Jedi Temple that you can just look up whatever you want. That's pretty much Wikipedia. They also predicted Wikipedia. What else did they do? Cruise control. Han Solo doesn't fly the Millennium Falcon. He just hits a switch and says, Chewie, roll. He's barely piloting. So Google Maps, cruise control, Wikipedia, Star Wars, revolutionary, folks.
Why did we ever give him a mic?
That's a really good question.
I mean,
They also predicted that old, wrinkly, weird people would come into power, just like in the United States.
Oh, they didn't need to predict that. That's been happening for a long, long time.
Well,
That's
the first
clip
time
number
we saw
3.
somebody that ugly was in Star Wars in power, so there you go.
We're not explaining anything.
Explain hyperspeed.
It's the end of no. It's the end of the episode. We're not explaining jack.
How about hitting plaid in Spaceballs?
Oh, plaid for sure.
Hitting plaid, just saying.
Ludicrous speed.
Ludicrous speed.
We do love ludicrous
Well,
speed.
folks, we're so thankful that you guys were able to tune in with us. I'm going to give a big old shout out to my buddy Ronan. I don't know if he's in the chat right now. He bought me this really cool microphone. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Joel,
We love Ronan.
where can we find you when you're not streaming Nerds and Nitwits?
Right here when I type it in the chat. Right there. Ayo, all the different links. We have the Instagram feed, which I post almost daily updates, and with Gizzy generally. That's correct. Almost daily updates about what's going on, or random clips from either the podcast or the streams that we're doing. On Threads, where I just post random thoughts every now and then that nobody really wants to listen to, but they're there anyways. And our YouTube channel, which all of these podcast episodes get uploaded to either the night of or the next morning, so you can come back and listen to them if you missed anything. Stick your headphones in, carry on in the background while you are cleaning your house. I'm looking at you, Mr. Carla. Or doing your homework, anything like that. So you can find us on social media. Or if you know where I live, well, you can find me there too. But I'd rather you not tell me to do that without notice. But yeah. So there's that. The next stream is going to be Saturday. It's going to be a little bit earlier than I would usually do it because we do have D&D on Saturday.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey, yo.
So if I do stream, I haven't decided yet. Probably will. It will be probably around 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock PST time, where I'll either be streaming some more Monster Hunter, getting some practice in, gonna fight what is nicknamed the Giant Angry Pickle. And if you don't know what that is, then I guess you'll have to come find out. Or if Gizzy can wear me down, then probably stream Rivals. So if anybody else who plays Rivals will also want to stream Rivals with us, then you are free to stream Rivals. Probably won't be playing competitive though, because you, sir, I'm looking at you, Cam, that guy down there, are on PC, and I am not for that general purpose. So that'll probably be Saturday at 1 o'clock ish. I'll send out some posts and stuff so that people can join if they want to. Is what we're spending money on. You can't just what is what we're spending money on.
Rivals?
Rivals?
It's free.
It's free. It's free to play. Like, come on, man. I've spent money on it, but that's because it's relatively cheap. But yeah, Marvel's Rivals is free to play. You can play with us if you got a decent enough console. But yeah, that's that. Monday night, we'll be back with Monday Night Classics, playing some more Pokemon. So come hang out with us. Shout out to our Mr. Dwarf down that way, because he's never let the average viewer stream go below 1. So we're keeping him there. But that is it for tonight. So thank you, boys, wherever you are, for joining. As you can see, our format is different because you can see him down there, you can see him over there, but you can't see him over there. He's working on it.
Not yet.
He's working on it.
We'll get there.
Don't worry. When the fancy new job starts paying for things, I'll upgrade everybody. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah. What are we at? We're currently at 37 out of 50, I think. If we can get to 50.
41.
Are we at 41?
I think we're at 41.
Did we get to 41?
That's right. We're 9 away from 50, guys. So big thanks to those who joined us, who subscribed, and share us with your friends if you thought it was fun. And next week, like Cam said, Marvel.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
But anyways, I feel like that is going to be where we roll out. So let's roll out, guys.
Bye.
Hey, yo. Bye-bye, everybody. They can still hear you, by the way, so feel free to put in any Jeopardy music, background music, chat. This is the weird after-stream conversation that's still happening, so.
Yeah.
This is,
Do you know what else Star Wars predicted?
All right, that's enough of that. We're done there. You guys are muted. That is over. And we're gonna end stream in 5, 4, 3.